Hello Tacticians, it's Nox here, and first of all a massive thank you to every single one of my subs. I've now hit 1,000 subs, and because of that Snowprint have given me a code which everyone can use, which is Nox 1k Suns. And that's going to get you 2 shards for Thormachus, 2 shards for Ahriman, and 1 legendary Chaos Orb. So thank you for Snowprint for providing that, and thank you to every single one of you who has subscribed. And not only that, another big thank you to Big Swag, Lilac3368, Hinken, Sai, Droll20 and Player9335 who also decided to use my friend code. Thank you everyone, it is absolutely fantastic to have such support from everyone out there. And if that wasn't enough, they've also given me 2 codes for a competition. The first one will be enough to unlock Abraxas, or if you already have him, get another 130 shards. The second place winner will get 50 shards for Toth. So all that you need to do is make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment below, preferably about how you plan to defeat this Screamer Killer. So before we look at the Screamer Killer himself, we're going to look at the side bosses. First up is the Neurothrope, and as we've seen in the past, this is based on an existing character we have already unlocked, which is our Neurothrope, and as such it has a Spirit Leech, which we can't quite see the title of at the top there unfortunately, but I'm sure they'll have that fixed when it goes live, which deals psychic damage to an enemy within 3 hexes, and if the target is suppressed it will deal additional damage, otherwise get suppressed. And the Neurothrope and friendly Tyranids adjacent to it will heal 60% of the damage dealt. So that's going to heal quite a lot of damage. So make sure that you kill all the other troops on this map before you really start dealing with the Neurothrope. Secondly is the Neuroparasite, and we are familiar with this Neuroparasite. The more it hits you, the higher that Neuroparasite stack will get, and the more damage it does. Not something we really want on our own characters, but unfortunately there's no way to get rid of it. And finally, it is vulnerable to melee. Now this is a new trait, and basically it is exactly as it says. Each time the unit is dealt melee damage, it loses additional health, in addition to the damage already done. It doesn't matter what type of melee damage it's dealing, it's just the fact it has to be melee damage and not being shot from range. As you battle the Neurothrope, the more its health goes down, the more it'll affect the Screamer Killer. First of all, a Barb Gaunt will be removed from the battlefield, and then the attack damage will be reduced. The Death Scream no longer stuns, critical damage is reduced by 25%, and then finally, when you've completely killed it, another Barb Gaunt is removed from the battlefield. Now let's look at the Winged Tyranid Prime. Now this isn't a character that we have, but could it be? Could this be the next Tyranid character, or the one after, that we can unlock? I don't have the answers for you, but we can at least speculate that we could be unlocking this. Looking at its traits, it hasn't really got anything we haven't seen before. It has got the Immune trait, the Synapse trait, as the Neurothrope does. It's got the Flying trait, and a Final Vengeance. So just when you do kill it, it's really going to just strike out one last time, so that has no effect here. It will also have 3 Tyranid Warriors with it, and a bunch of Ripper Swarms. Here, the Winged Tyranid Prime has Alpha Warrior. If he has not moved this turn, summon a Tyranid Warrior in a free hex within Synapse range. Synapse being 2 hexes. The Tyranid Warrior has the Synapse trait and immediately performs a normal attack against the nearest enemy. So this will be a range attack or a melee attack depending on where it is actually placed. Its second ability is Synaptic Linchpin, when wherever the Winged Tyranid Prime or another friendly unit with Synapse performs a normal attack against an enemy and that enemy survives, summon a Hormigant adjacent to the target, which then immediately attacks. No more than 4 Hormigants can be summoned to the battlefield this way. So this means when the Tyranid Prime itself or one of the Tyranid Warriors who also have Synapse, if they attack someone and they survive, they will summon a Hormigant onto the field. And again we have the vulnerable, but this time it's not melee, it's vulnerable to flame and blast. Each time this unit is dealt flame damage or blast damage, it loses health in addition to the damage done. And it takes less damage from attacks that do not deal flame or blast damage. Whereas the last one only cared about melee damage and didn't care about the type, this one cares about the type but not where it came from. So it could be ranged, it could be in close combat. And here, as we kill the Tyranid Prime, it will remove the Hormagaunts from the battlefield of the Screamer Killer, it will reduce its armour, the living battering ram will no longer stun the target, The crit damage is again reduced by 25%, and then 3 more Hormagaunts are removed. So what this really means, with both, you're removing additional enemies from the Screamer Killer itself. So I believe that no matter what level you're dealing with, you're going to want to remove the 2 primes. Now on to the Screamer Killer. It has the normal traits that we are used to, such as immune and big target. Its instinctive behaviour is, if there are targets in range, this unit does not move and attacks the closest target. So if we want to control this beast, we're going to want someone who can withstand its attacks and basically trade blows with it. And finally, it has suppressive fire. An enemy hit by this unit's ranged attack becomes suppressed. So that's just the ranged, not the close combat one. So what can it do? Well, we've got the Death Scream, which deals plasma damage 6 times to a target enemy within range and additional bio damage to all enemies adjacent to the target. And it will stun all the affected units for 1 round. Again, this is why we kill the Neurothrope. Then it has Unparalleled Ferocity, which deals 5 lots of physical damage to all adjacent enemies. Now, it's interesting here, this is physical damage, so if you've got someone with high armour, next to him, it's not going to do much damage at all because of that 1% pierce ratio. And it does a 100% crit chance against summons. So whilst Bellator's summons may well be safe because of their high armour, someone like Alephanol, they're going to disappear in a cloud of smoke. It then has Living Battering Ram, which deals again physical damage to an adjacent target with a 100% chance to stun it. This time we need to get rid of the winged Tyranid Prime. The target is also thrown 2 hexes away from the Screamer Killer. If the hex the target lands in was occupied, the occupying unit will become displaced in a random direction, and the target is then dealt an additional amount of direct damage. And this time, because it's direct damage, it's 100% pierce ratio. So you don't want this throwing anyone onto any other of your characters. He has Adrenal Surge, so each time the Screamer Killer defeats an enemy, it will gain 10% crit chance. Now, as we've mentioned, he's only doing physical damage, so it's not the end of the world. He has Blistering Assault. The Screamer Killer's normal attacks also affect all enemies adjacent to the target of the attack. And finally, it's got Hyper Aggression. Beginning on its 2nd turn, after the Screamer Killer uses an active ability, it will also perform a normal attack. So this guy is going to be attacking twice per turn. So we've had a look at all the stats. Let's have a look at what they actually look like on the battlefield. So here is the Neurothrope. And, well, he doesn't come on his own. He brings a lot of friends with him. So what we're going to do, we're going to just hang back for the first turn because going into that lot seems like suicide to me. And now we have to get in there to attack. And as you can see, Bellator doesn't do much damage to this Barbgaunt. But we don't want to summon in his friends just yet because we're going to want to summon them around the Neurothrope when we can. Cut will happily go in and throw a grenade at this one here and do damage to the one behind it. And we'll chop up a couple of others. Now, as you can see, melee really works here, but sometimes good old flame helps too. You can see those Barbgaunts making short work of Ulf there. But we still need to get to the Neurothrope. So Cut's going to have to move forward 1, and finally we can send in Bellator. Now, unfortunately, the Neurothrope is in a terrible position for me, but let's send him in anyway. And there's the 5760 from his vulnerable to melee. And we'll continue chopping up everyone else. So here he moved back 1 and killed off not only one of my troops but also Cut as well. Now, because I think we really want to get everyone into combat, we're going to send in Shark up to get into close combat. And Bellator will move up there too. Vindictor's not quite there yet, but we're trying to make sure that we deal as much close combat damage as we can. And as the Neurothrope can actually fly, he'll always move out of our way. And we've got Vindictor there to mop up the final one. And then he runs away at the bottom of the screen. Was this a good go? Probably not. I'm sure you guys can do better, but I just wanted to show how it's set up and what you need to think about while attacking this side boss. So here we have the starting position for the winged Tyranid Prime at Legendary. And Rayvas is almost required because we can force all of these extra troops to run forward and Rayvas will probably take care of most of them. We do need to make sure Thaddeus is protected, but we'll group up around Rayvas to make sure they all run close. And there you go, Ravas has finally run out of steam. So we've got a couple of creatures that we need to take care of. If we move Vindicta over and use her flame, we can then use it twice to kill off, hopefully, the Tyranid, not quite, and do a bunch of damage to the Wing Prime. I probably should have moved Eldrian up first to give that extra boost of damage, but never mind. Here we are actually going to put Ravas into close combat, and the reason for that is his flame. Now we're not going to use it just yet because, of course, we want to move Eldrian up to maximise the amount of damage we can do. And we are, of course, going to have to take care of this Hormigaunt, and we're going to have to leave that Tyranid warrior out in the open. Now, it could be Abraxas would be a good choice to put in here, and as you can see, that summon of another Tyranid warrior does immense damage to normal characters. We used Brother Shards' frag grenade there to do the blast damage on the Wing Prime and kill off the other Tyranid warrior. But the ones we have left are going to do very little damage to this one because of his reinforced Hive Node, which of course gives him plus 100% armour. So we'll try and hide Thaddeus, and we'll do our best to do as much damage as possible to the Winged Tyranid Prime. And there goes Thaddeus in a blood and glory and guts all over the place. As you can see, these summons really do make short work of the squishy characters. Again, Ravas will do his flame attack to deal that extra damage. And as you can see, punching him in combat is literally no good. So I think we're going to have to come up with new strategies to try and do the most damage to this guy, because he is going to be a pain. Now, this is what you will be faced with if you don't kill off those two side bosses. So I would highly advise that you kill them first, because then you'll see something like this. And doesn't that look much nicer? Now, as always, we will want to send Ravas forward to deal with the two Tyranid warriors as they charge in. Bear in mind, we need to make sure our squishier guys, such as Eldrian and Morgan Ra, aren't going to get in harm's way. So now what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that everyone who wants to shoot is in a safe position, so they're not going to have anyone thrown into them. And we're going to have Cut and Marnius tank this guy to the face. And even with that, he does masses of damage to Marnius, who then dies. But Cut is a large target, so he can't be pushed back and will therefore be pinning the Screamer Killer in place. But he will be taking 2 lots of damage every turn. And even though it's only a 1% pierce, it seems to be doing a good chunk of damage to Cut. As such, we could consider it may be worthwhile bringing in a healer to keep the ones in melee combat healed up, or possibly having 2 characters in melee and swapping them around. Now, if I move Eldrian out of the way, we know that the Carnifex is going to choose someone to scream at. And normally that scream would stun, although here it just kills 2 characters. And Morgan Ra will have the final say. And that new guild raid boss will be coming to us very soon indeed. If you like my videos and would like to help me out, please consider using my friend code, as that really does help. And if you or your guild are looking for a new home, we have got spaces and we are willing to welcome new guilds into our midst. As always, please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.